And good Tuesday morning. Thank you for tuning in the Inside Drive live. Here it is, episode 22. I'm going to do things a little bit different today, as you may or may not notice, because there's only one camera on me right now. Nobody in studio, so we're going to try to do 2 phone interviews today. And I'm also using my computer for the first time. So if I screw something up, please give me some forgiveness. But I'm excited to have my good friend Dan Jordan. He is an Auburn alum, and he's kind of fallen out of watching college football. So we're going to talk to him a little bit from a different perspective of, kind of why he's not watching college football as much as he did. And then, of course, get his thoughts on the Auburn Tigers as well. And it's Tuesday, so that means we've also got Keith Fleming on the line. All you DFS degenerates out there, make sure you tune in. That'll be at 11:30. He'll give you all his stats and thoughts on the previous week. And, of course, his first look at his official lineup for week 10 coming up, which is kind of crazy. Trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. Some teams have made some moves thus far. Got to start with my sponsors, as always. My 2 great sponsors, Golf Plus. Attention golfers who want to improve their score, Golf Plus is the place to be in Bay County with the tools and expertise to help you. Golf Plus has been featured in Golf and Golf Digest magazine as one of the top club fitters in the country, and they certainly deserve those accolades. Their fitting studio will blow you away with the selection of brands and models of clubs and shafts as well. The putting green is filled with all the brands you could possibly want. The repair shop, second to none. We talk about it all the time. Tour band quality repairs every time, and fast too. They just added a second simulator. Renovations are going on to the Golf Plus shop as we speak. Also, gear up for their holiday sales that are coming up here soon. Everybody's got a golfer in their life, and Golf Plus has got everything the golfer in your life could possibly need. Check them out. They are located in the shops at Edgewater next to Firefly and the Pink Pelican ice cream store as well. You can give them a call at 850-249-2726, or you can visit them online at golfplusretail.com. Of course, you can follow them on Facebook as well, Golf Plus PCB. If you want to book a club fitting or some simulator time, you can do that right there at golfplusretail.com. And then, of course, Panhandle Credit Union. The quality relationships they have with our community is what Panhandle Credit Union is all about, whether it is sponsoring an event, donating to a cause, providing loan options, or setting up people with great banking products. Panhandle Credit Union is here to serve those who live, work, worship, or attend school in Bay and other surrounding counties. Together, Panhandle Credit Union builds community. Visit panhandlecu.org or swing by any branch location to join. Don't forget about our Athlete of the Week sponsor. My goal is to have an Athlete of the Week by the end of the day today. The Athlete of the Week here in Bay County will win a $50 gift card right there to American Charlie's. I know all of our previous winners have really enjoyed going out there and checking it out. A lot of people hadn't been there before, but they are also located in the shops of Edgewater, just kind of on the opposite side of Golf Plus. They got great daily specials. They got 15 TVs for all your collegiate and NFL games. Every day of the week, they've got military and first responder discounts. They've got great fried chicken, pot roast, wings, burgers, shrimp, and all those American classic dishes. You can visit that at AmericanCharlies.com, or I would encourage you more to see what's going on. Just search up American Charlies on Facebook. Like I said, I'll be working on an American Charlies Athlete of the Week here later on today. I'll get that posted out, as we want to make sure we're celebrating all our youth athletes here in Bay County, whether it's high school, middle school, recreation, travel ball, whatever it is. We are looking at every facet of sports here in Bay County and beyond to pick our athletes of the week. First thing I'm going to start with today is that crazy Game 7 in the World Series. Pretty much everything you could possibly want. This is right from The Athletic. You did have a benches clear in Game 7. That happened in the 4th inning when Justin Werbreski, I don't know how to pronounce his name, hit Andres Gonzalez after it appeared that Gonzalez had thrown a hand out in an attempt to get hit on the previous pitch. And then Yoshi Yamamoto, threw 96 pitches threw 96 pitches in his previous start, and then throws 34 more pitches to close out Game 7. Obviously, that earned him the 2025 World Series MVP. You also saw pretty much every all-star pitcher or pretty much every starting pitcher on both teams in Game 7. All of the starting pitchers that made appearance: Shohei, Max Scherzer, Tyler Glasnow, Trey Savage, Shane Bieber, Blake Snell, and Yoshi Yamamoto, all in one game, which is pretty incredible to see. And then, of course, Miguel Rojas was part of the Los Angeles, $350 billion plus roster. I don't know if that's billion or million. He hit that solo home run in the 9th to tie the game. the Toronto Blue Jays had so many opportunities to win that Game 7 and win their third World Series of all time, but they just couldn't get those runners off the plate or across the plate, excuse me. And obviously, you know, I don't know if it's controversial or not. To me, it looked like his foot got back down on the bag before I think his name is Fayefa, would slide across the plate on that bases loaded ground ball that got thrown out. A lot of people said the catcher's foot was off the bag. Will Smith's foot was off the bag. I thought he got it back, or not the bag, the plate. I thought he got it back down just before the runner slid across, but obviously that's for debate, of course. And then speaking of Will Smith, he hit that solo home run in the 11th to give the Dodgers that 5-4 lead, and then the Blue Jays just couldn't get it back up. Want to mention Bo Bichette's 3-run homer as well, or Scherzer, who's 41 years old, just allowing 1 run in 4 1/3 innings. That was as he started the first World Series Game 7 since he started the 2019 finale for the Washington Nationals. Also want to mention Will Smith. That is his 6th straight World Series win in a row. Not all with the same team, obviously, but back in 2020, he was with the Dodgers, and he won the World Series, and then won it with the Braves in 2021, then won it with the Astros in 2022, and then won it with the Rangers in 23, and then obviously the last 2 years he's been the catcher for the Dodgers in 24 and 25. Pretty crazy, impressive stat there for Will Smith, and of course he contributed big time, obviously, with that solo home run in the top of the 11th to put the Dodgers up for good, and it ended up being the rest of that game. Want to make sure we talk about and get caught up on all the high school football action. It started last Thursday. Mosley got their revenge against Florida State University High School, 26-27 on the road. Girls soccer has also started as well. Port St. Joe and Bozeman tied 2-2 last Thursday. And then while we were all trick-or-treating, football was being played. Arnold got their 3rd win of the season, 35-28 over the Rutherford Rams. Bay improved to 9-1 and won the county championship, beating Bozeman 62-13. Freeport goes over 500 with a 36-35 win over North Florida Christian. And then North Bay Haven Academy lost to Sneads 38-22. And of course, catching us up until now, Mosley and North Bay Haven played last night in girls soccer. Mosley got the best of North Bay Haven 9-1 in that game. Also got a couple games coming up today on boys and girls soccer. Bozeman will be taking on Palm Bay Prep Academy, and Arnold will be hosting Choctawhatchee to get their season underway. Also want to mention the playoffs. We don't know opponents quite yet, but we should know after this week because there's still some teams down in South Florida that have to finish up their season this week. And then once we know that, we'll know who Mosley, Bay, and Bozeman will be playing. It's the first time in Bay County history that 3 district champions will be hosting a first-round playoff game. So a lot of opportunity to see some great playoff high school football coming up here over the next week or two. The Mosley first-round game will be on Thursday, November 13th at 7 p.m. That'll be at Tommy Oliver Stadium. Again, Mosley's district champs of their district. And then on 11/14, that next day, Friday at 7 p.m., Bay will be hosting their first-round playoff game. They're the district and county champions. And then, like I said, we don't know when or who Bozeman will be playing yet. They're also their district championship champions as well. Like I mentioned, there's still several high schools that have to finish their season in the other part of Florida, that peninsula part of Florida. And once those are all wrapped up, we should know when the opponents are. And as soon as I know those opponents, I will certainly update everything that is going on. I'm going to go ahead and get Dan Jordan on the line now. I just got to connect to the Bluetooth real quick here in Nakatomi Plaza. Oh, it's not listed there. I think I got a new phone last week, Everett, so not popping up on my list yet, but it will. Well, let me turn it off and turn it back on. It's what is it called again? Yeah, it's not showing up on my Bluetooth list. Let's make things a little bit harder. Stand by 1 second, everybody. Just got to get me connected again real quick. Bluetooth off and turn it back on. There it is. 208-912. disturb as well. Just get him on the line. It's kind of crazy how all this technology works. Being able to just call right from a phone and hear him over a live podcast. It's cool stuff. All right.
Hey, man.
Hey, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me, Dan? Dan, can you hear me? Just making everything a little bit more challenging today here for me. Can you hear me, Everett? I can hear him. Let me take it off Do Not Disturb and see if that was the reason. Dan, can you hear me? I'm just going to try. He said hello when I first called. I'm just going to hang up and try again real quick. Yeah.
Hey, man.
Hey, I don't know why you can't hear me. Can you hear me?
You there?
Yes, I am. And I can hear you, but you can't hear me, and I don't know why. Hey, Dan, can you hear me now? I'm just doing it on speaker, not through the mixer. All right, I'm just going to see if I can do this real quick. All right, Dan, of course, I'm having some technical difficulties as trying to get multiple phone interviews in today. But let's just jump right into it. I'm going to see if I can just put you on speaker near the mic and see if everybody can hear you.
Okay.
All right, so I was mentioning to everybody that you are an Auburn alumni. You went there and graduated from there, but you're really not a big college football watcher anymore. You know, what are some of the reasons that you kind of got turned off, not just from Auburn, but from watching all college football games?
It wasn't really the NIL, as I think it was for some people, because I think they should get paid. I think it's mainly the transfer portal. It's just kind of the wild, wild west.
For sure.
And, you know, that's why I liked college over the NFL, because I really like to see player development, and I like to see those people come up through the ranks and get drafted and kind of see, like, teenagers become adults, and that's gone. I mean, you know, like, does Lane Kiffin even recruit? Like, I think he just plucks players from the portal every year, you know?
I mean, it's certainly much more just, you know, I'm going to go, you know, where I can get either paid more money or, you know, give myself a better opportunity, you know, go to the NFL and that kind of stuff. You kind of mentioned something there that, you know, these football coaches, head coaches, coordinators, all that stuff, they really, part of their job was, you know, and Nick Saban was really good at it. So was Dabo, was, you know, like you said, developing kids into adults, and being on these college football programs really, you know, meant with that. That's kind of a point that I didn't, you know, think about, as they don't really, you know, maybe they do it to a certain degree, but it's not like it ever was before. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I mean, you still got probably a handful of players, but I mean, for the most part, so take Auburn basketball. I think of their, like, 10 people on scholarship, I think 9 of them are new this year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't even know who these people are. You know, it's just like watching strangers. And so, you know, it's like watching a team that you had never watched before play ball. And so, I don't know. I think it just, for me, it took all the, like, the fun out of it, because that was the fun part to me, was to see. I mean, maybe I should start going watching high school ball now. But, like, you know, to see people that, you know, came into school, that some of them were 17 years old, they leave there 21, 22 years old, either with a degree or, you know, with a big fat contract. And I thought that was pretty cool. And honestly, that's kind of what I would watch. What little bit in the NFL I watched were those players. because I kind of wanted to keep up with them. I wasn't really watching the teams as much as I was watching those individual players. And I don't know where we go from here, but I think as far as the transfer portal, I think they've got to get those rules back. Unless it's a hardship, you can't transfer without sitting out a year.
That would certainly solve it and get back to it, but it's that old adage, right? When when you open Pandora's box, you can't really put everything back in. So I know they've made some adjustments, like they got rid of that second transfer portal window not too long ago, which was stupid in the first place because it was basically in the spring where you already had spring practice going and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think if they want to do it, but again, now they've been doing it for what, 2 or 3 years, so it's going to be kind of hard to go back. I mean, I'm like you said, the NIL is, these kids make millions of dollars for these universities, so getting a little piece of that pie, that doesn't really bother me. But just to be able to bounce around as much as you possibly want, it's not even just one anymore. You could just keep going and going and going until I guess you find a home or get the money you're looking for. So it certainly is the wild, wild west. Talking about Auburn specifically, what do you think about all the issues Auburn has had finding a coach? Not just the recent Freeze firing, but obviously Brian Harsin. Basically, going back to Gus Malzahn was the last time we had like a stable coach that did decently. And now I mean, I think you put it on my post yesterday on Facebook. Like you said, what do you expect to have happen with Hugh Freeze, who had got busted before for using a university credit card at a strip club? What did you expect to happen, with that hire? Obviously, he didn't do anything like that again that we know of. He just never could really get the program moving in the right direction. And a loss to Kentucky, 10-3. I mean, a lot of people said maybe they'll give him till next year, even myself, because who are you going to get? Because there's so many job openings. And, if you fire him, who are you going to be able to compete with? Florida, LSU, all these other universities have so much more liquid cash that they can use. I mean, obviously they've bought out huge amounts before, but, where does Auburn go from here with the coaching hire? And why do you think it's been such a disaster trying to find another stable coach?
Well, I think they should just hire Jimmy Raines because he's the coach anyway. I mean, he runs the school and the athletic department, and so he's the problem. I don't think they should have fired Hugh Freeze. I mean, I think it's ridiculous to fire a coach in the middle of the season anyway, unless it's like for cause. But I do know why they do it, but I just still think it's kind of crappy. But I just, who are you going to get that's better? I didn't like the Hugh Freeze hire to begin with, not because I actually thought he would win. I'm surprised.
I did too.
I actually thought that, just from a character standpoint, Cadillac was unproven.
Yep. He's
as a winner.
Great for culture, but yes, actually winning in the X's and O's and all that. He had never really done that. So
he was not unproven as a leader. And so, go back to Sylvester Croom days in Mississippi State. His recruiting pitch to parents was, I'm going to make a man out of this person first. That's my number one goal. How did we get so far away from that we don't care about anything other than him? And, the Mark Richt days, he was a stand-up guy. They fired a guy that had, Randy Kirby Smart's done better. I get it. But I think the team, as far as, having players in car wrecks, leaving strip clubs and stuff like that, you didn't see that, before. But going back to Auburn, I think you've got to get the boosters out of the coaches' offices. Alabama had this problem horribly before Saban, and when Saban came in, he told them all to shut the hell up, and he was going to do it his way. And luckily, he won quick enough that they
listened.
That.
Yeah,
they listened. I have no doubt that they tried it at first with him, but you've got to have a coach that's going to be. Number one, he's going to have to get a long enough contract from day one to be able to tell them that and not worry about it.
And give them the time to, get the program moving in the direction that they want it to.
Right. But I still don't think they should have fired Freeze. We're competing with LSU and Florida to get a coach. Not that Auburn doesn't have. But who as a coach is going to come? Right
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, LSU probably the most attractive opening right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think LSU certainly Florida. I think Florida and Auburn are probably about equal to everybody except Florida fans' minds. But
Yep.
I think LSU is the more attractive program from a spotlight standpoint. I think that's mainly just because Auburn is just ran through so many coaches. I mean,
Yep.
LSU hasn't done much better with that. Honestly,
No.
I mean, firing Orgeron, and then I can't figure out what they're thinking hiring Brian Kelly. But you know,
Hey Dan, I'm gonna try to get you on the actual thing again real quick. If you can't, if it comes on, you can't hear me, I'll just do this again.
okay.
All right. Talk to you in a second. All right. Try calling back. We're gonna get it, I promise. It's probably because of the phone.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, now we're back to how we were supposed to be. So anyway, we were talking, LSU, Florida, obviously it's probably a little more attractive simply because, I don't know if there's more money there or, you could win.
Hear you.
What's that? You can hear me? Or he could. I'm just going to finish it on speaker. All right, Dan, I'm just going to go back to speaker because you said you couldn't hear me there at the end.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, you're just on regular speaker now.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I was just kind of saying that, you were saying that, Florida and LSU obviously probably a little more attractive because there's been more winning more successfully, but probably a little more money at both of those universities as well. But yeah,
but LSU that long ago, I mean, they were in some
They were-
financial
they were
struggles.
money was getting stolen from cancer patients and stuff like that. That's what Jason Kovaleski always used to tell me, and I've read some articles on that too. Yeah, they were really really hurting there for a little while when it came to money, not being where it needed to be. What do you think about like a guy like James Franklin from Penn State? Do you think that's too much like a Brian Kelly at LSU, where the culture is just so different, up in Pennsylvania than it is in Alabama?
Man, but he was at Vandy before that, did
Yep.
really well.
Yeah.
And I would be all for it. Of everybody out there, I think it was ridiculous that they fired him. I know that they are like sub-tier to Ohio State right now in Michigan, I guess, but I don't know anybody they're going to hire to be better than him. And if I was an Auburn fan, I would love for him to come in with stability. And you just see all the stuff people have said positive about him since he was fired, writing letters of recommendation for walk-on players once they graduated, getting a job. Just stuff like that. It's just not all about winning. Like if my team loses a few games, but they played their hearts out and they were super competitive, and it just didn't quite go their way,
and they got better throughout the season. That's one of the
better throughout the season. They recruited well. They made the playoffs. Especially now that the playoffs expanded. I think
a lot more opportunity to make the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should be in for that nearly every year. I would be down for that. I know Indiana's got this hot coach that
They just
somebody
gave him
I've never heard of.
they just gave him a huge extension though. I don't think he's going to be going anywhere.
Well, good for him and good for Indiana.
Yep.
I heard Herb Street. I saw this thing on Instagram. It was a little clip of him talking, and it was mainly about Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss, and he was like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you leave Ole Miss? You're getting $10 million a year. You'll probably get a huge bump this year just to stay, and they're so happy with what you're doing there. You'll never get fired from Ole Miss with this win ratio. They don't expect to win every single game.
Yeah, he's got a little leeway there for sure.
Yeah, and I think maybe some coaches hopefully are understanding that. I mean, it seems like that's why Lane didn't come to Auburn last year, is because he wanted some continuity and he was happy where he was, and his kids were happy where they were. And he probably also knew that as soon as he went to Auburn, he probably had 3 or 4 or 5 years, and that's going to be it. And he can retire at Ole Miss. I mean, he can coach there. I mean, Lane's not even an old guy. He can coach there another 15, 20 years if he wanted to.
Win a few national championships along the way.
And possibly, or at least win some, get close. I mean, you're definitely going to be selling out tickets. I mean, for sure. So what's wrong with that? Like as a coach, I guess just some of their, it's kind of an ego thing to get that huge school come knocking at the door. But at the same time, I mean, every one of them throws so much money at you that it is impossible to deliver results that they want for what they're paid.
In 2 years, nonetheless.
In 2 years, nonetheless. And then, I mean, for the coach, I mean, I guess you got a huge buyout. I mean, Hugh Freeze is small in relation to what some of these other people's are. But, I mean, my goodness, you look at what James Franklin got, wasn't his like $50 million or something?
I don't think his, it was Brian Kelly's was 53.
Oh, okay. And I think they negotiated that down some.
Yeah, I think he's getting like $8 million a year over so many years. But did you see where we talked a little bit about this last week, where the Louisiana governor, and obviously LSU is a state school, basically told the AD, who has now since been fired, that you are not making this hire, and he's going to appoint a board of people to make the hire for LSU. Football just a little bit different over there in the Bayou State.
I heard a little bit about that. That's so interesting.
And then they canned the guy anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, it's not state money that's paying this guy. It's all booster money. So I don't really, if it was state money, I would get it. But, I don't really agree with that. But, I think all these schools are in for a mess of trying to hire another coach. I mean, I think they should strongly see what DJ Durkin does at Auburn for the rest of the year.
Agreed.
If he carries some momentum. Wasn't he a head coach at like Maryland or somewhere? And
I think so.
Some like under some like cloud there or something.
Something like that, yeah. And then he went back to the coordinator world.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's got a solid defense. They can recruit well.
I mean, their defense is so dang good. I feel like we're wasting a good year of defensive talent. I mean, they're like one of 4 schools that has not allowed over 24 points to an opponent all season. And then, of course, Cam Coleman, who's an absolute superstar. We can't even get the ball to him down the field because I don't know what the hell is going on with our play calling. But I read, too, about the play calling. Like, one of the coaches was calling plays on first down. One of the coaches was calling plays on second down. And then Freeze was calling plays on third down, which I don't know how in any world that makes sense, because let's just confuse our quarterbacks and let's confuse our offensive players even more by having 3 separate people calling plays. I've never heard or seen that before. Absolutely wild stuff from the Auburn Tigers in that aspect.
Yeah, that's super weird. I think. I mean, I know when you've got an offensive head coach, a lot of times they even delegate play calling duties, and then they have the right to veto that play.
Yeah,
call,
the final say, so to speak. Yep.
Yeah, and if I was an offensive guru, I would always want that right as well, and they would just have to know that going in. But I don't know what Hugh Freeze's deal was there, not being able to get that going, but it'll be interesting to see if any of that picks up with Derek Nix. With Hugh Freeze, like, I didn't like how he would kind of throw some people under the bus in these press conferences.
He never took accountability for the losses. He always blamed other people, in my opinion.
Yeah, mine too, and that really just sat wrong with me. And even if it was true, whether they're the coaches you're blaming or the players, you hired the coaches and you recruited the players. So, sit them on the bench and put somebody else in there. I thought the way he won at Liberty that he was going to be I thought we were going to be at least as good as Ole Miss is now by now. But for whatever reason, It's not, and it seems to be a common theme with coaches. If you look when Gus Malzahn first got to Auburn in 2013, and what they looked like then versus what they looked like 3 or 4 years later, they had slowed way down. They had just not. It didn't look like anything like a Malzahn ran team anymore, and I just got to wonder if that's not an issue with the boosters getting in there and meddling. And nobody's going to be able to convince me otherwise that they're not telling the coach how he's got to run his program. And
which is a huge issue when it comes to, you're hiring a coach to do his job, create his culture, create his, game plan, schemes, all that stuff. And for people that just have a lot of money that want to support the university should have no business meddling in any of that, in my opinion. So that's a good point.
Yeah. And, if you just look back at even Chiswick, I know it seemed like he kind of lost control of the program, but if you just look at him from the beginning, you look at Malzahn from the beginning, you even look at how Harsin was at the beginning. Harsin was like about to turn a corner, and then it just like flatlined.
Yep.
And I just think there are probably more people than just Jimmy Raines, but I think there are people that have that coach's number on speed dial, and the coach has to answer when they call. And I think that they are that armchair quarterback person that the coach unfortunately has to listen to. And, those people don't know any more about football than you or I do. And until we get a coach that comes in there like a Nick Saban that tells them where to shove it,
yep.
I don't think we're going to be successful long term. And I think that's something in the coaches' circles that they know, because I think that's why.
Yeah, that stuff has to get around. Yeah, for sure.
It has to. Because you just think about all like the assistants and everything that they don't ever say that stuff, but like when they end up at other schools, you think they don't talk?
Oh yeah, for sure.
We're essentially what Tennessee was for 20 years.
Yeah, and that's sad.
Yeah, and it's sad, and it's I watched part of that Auburn Baylor game, and man, that did not look like an SEC football team out there on the field. They were just slow, and I just look back to the days of like Tommy Tuberville's heyday, and those were NFL players in Auburn uniforms. Like, say what you will, I was sitting next to those dudes in class. They were so much bigger and stronger than these kids Auburn has now. It is unbelievable. Like, these dudes were grown-ass men out there. And it's not the same. You might have a few, but overall it is not the same. It's not the same kind of player. And I think we've got to get back to that too. I know the game's gotten quicker, so they've started recruiting a different type of build and stuff like that.
But your lines and the defense still have to be the same.
They do. I can't remember being in the stands and when like Trey Black, who never played a full season because he was always in trouble. When he hit somebody, it echoed up into the stadium. It was so hard. You just had Takeo Spikes.
That was the name I was about to say.
When they hit people, they literally knock people out on a regular basis. And I know you could lead with a helmet like that, but certainly seemed to get more results out of it, and you were always competitive, even if you lost.
Yep, it wasn't these ugly wins or losses. Yep.
No,
whole different ball game.
We were always in any game. I can remember beating Florida at Florida. I can remember beating Florida in Auburn, and that was in the the Florida heydays. And you just Auburn was always in it to win it, and they had depth and they had strength, and it's just went downhill ever since, to be honest with you.
Pretty much since Cam Newton, it's all been, obviously we had that Nick Marshall year. Well, but that was, you literally could say that was because of two miracles. Obviously, the prayer at Jordan Hare and then the kick six. Those don't happen. We're not in the SEC championship and beat Missouri and then go to the national championship. So really, it's been a long, long time since they've been a factor. Now they're a bottom feeder in the SEC, which is kind of crazy to believe given, how good they were in the 2000s, coming up during all those eras you were talking about. Dan, last question I'll ask you. If you were a college football coach and you had, your pick of the litter, which school you wanted to go to, what would it be? Obviously, Auburn's one of them, LSU, Florida, Penn State, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Stanford, and Oregon State, and then UAB, and then Colorado State's in there too. But who's going to go to Colorado State? It's a tough program.
Neutral coach that doesn't have an allegiance to Auburn, and I'm just looking for the best job in everyone.
Yeah, where do you think you'd be the most successful?
I think I'd go to LSU.
I think I would agree with that.
To compete against recruiting to LSU, you're going to get everybody you want to get. I mean, you're going to recruit out of Arkansas, East Texas, Mississippi, in your home state. You don't even have an in-state rival. 100% LSU.
And they've won 3 national championships, in the last 10 years. So they've got a proven track record. I mean, obviously some of those teams were absolutely loaded, but, for sure. I think everybody probably would agree with LSU. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. And I agree with you. I don't think Kiffin's leaving to go to LSU or Florida when he's got such a good thing at Ole Miss. Why would you leave that? But
yeah, he's already got an extension on his desk.
Just ready to sign it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully I can get you in studio sometime in the future. And sorry about all the little phone technical difficulties there.
Yeah, man, glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, bye. All right, Everett, you want to try to take a quick break and see if we can get this phone thing figured out before we get Keith on? And we are kind of back. We're just double checking that hooking up my phone directly to the mixer is going to get Keith on the line. And we're going to see if Everett can hear him. Keith, can you just talk for a second?
What's going on?
I can do it. Just this one right here. All right, I think everybody, we are back in business. Apparently, if you get a new phone, it messes up the Bluetooth, with this particular switch and mixer here. So we're hardwired in like the good old days. And Mr. Keith Fleming is on the line with us, our DFS expert. I know he wants to talk about a few specific players, and then we'll get into his official, early look at the Week 10 lineup, which I know I said Week 9 last week, and that was insane. Now it's even more insane that we're in Week 10. And the trade deadline coming up this Tuesday. All right, Keith, who are some of the players you want to? I know one of these players is your boy, who you've been high on ever since he was a senior there at Georgia.
Yeah, our buddy Brock Bowers, fantasy football Jesus, finally returned, and he was healthy. It's easy to kind of forget that he played 3 games this season, where if you were like me and you had watched Bowers for 3 years at UGA, it was just not the same guy physically. They ended up sitting him down for a month, and he came back, became the first tight end with at least 125 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns in 1 game since Rob Gronkowski in 2014, which is extremely impressive when you consider how much more tight ends are used in the passing game. He also became the quickest tight end ever to eclipse 1,500 receiving yards in just 22 games. But more than anything, it just reminded us that this dude is maybe the most unstoppable force and the toughest guy to defend in the NFL on a week-to-week basis. Because if you look at it, he played 3 quarters healthy Week 1 versus the Patriots. He was injured, did not play most of the 4th quarter. And then obviously he played 5 quarters with the overtime on Sunday. And if you look at his 4 quarters per average of those 2 games, he's seeing 10.5 targets. That would rank 3rd among wide receivers, 115 receiving yards, which would rank 2nd among wide receivers, and 29.3 fantasy points, which would make him wide receiver 1. He also, in his first full healthy game, now granted it is with the caveat of an overtime, had the highest PPR performance of this season. And now the Raiders have just traded Jacoby Myers. So Brock Bowers is going to see unreal volume rest of the season. And I think he's one of the most electric players in the NFL. And I can't wait to see what he does with a much better quarterback than he had last year, playing with Aiden O'Connell and Desmond Ridder.
How long do you think he's a Raider?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, to me, it looks like they're building their offense around him, which would be a smart decision. They're 2-0 in the games that he's been, like he played basically a full game Week 1. He played 3 quarters. They beat New England, and then they beat Jacksonville. Obviously Sunday. Those are 2 teams with winning records right now. So he's like a kingmaker, is what we're talking about. Geno Smith's status as a starting quarterback in the NFL was on life support. And Brock Bowers comes back, and he looked great. So I also think they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel. You're going to see them with a lot of 2 tight end sets with him and Michael Mayer. Expect Trey Tucker and rookie Jack Beck to get a lot more opportunities, again, with the trade of Jacoby Myers to those Jacksonville Jaguars. So I guess they liked what they saw in Jacoby.
Seriously. Speaking of the Jags, how about Cam Little knocking a smooth 68-yarder through to break the NFL record of longest field goal in the history of the game? What is it with these kickers all of a sudden? 50-plus yard kicks look like the old 25-yard kicks. These guys are just insane. And a 68-yarder, it's kind of good to see it because I know one of these guys hit it might have been Cam Little in the preseason. Obviously, it didn't count. I think that was closer to 70, if I'm not mistaken. But 68 yards, if you think about how far that is that you have to kick a ball in the air through an uprights, what these guys are doing nowadays is just absolutely insane. I wanted to get that little tidbit in there.
Are you trolling me, Ryan? Because we got kickers for the Jags making 68-yarders. I can't find a kicker to make an extra point
yeah.
for my
But I
Atlanta
wasn't.
Falcons.
You
So
brought that up yourself. I
some
wasn't
people
trying
have
to troll you.
kickers, some teams don't. It's a big deal for sure.
Well, we used to have Jake Moody, and then we probably have the biggest upgrade in kicker history because Eddie Pinheiro has not. I don't want to jinx him. I'll knock on some wood here. He has not missed a field goal yet for us, so he'll probably miss them all this upcoming Sunday. But so yeah, kickers are certainly an interesting part of the game with where we are right now. Obviously, you kind of feel bad for your guys who score that brilliant touchdown. This kind of foreshadows the next guy you want to talk about. You may have to skip my guy to make that all flow right there, Keith.
Yeah, happy to do it. And this is another player who people forget. London got banged up week 1. He did not look like the guy that we saw last year, particularly in the 3 games with Michael Penix to finish the season. And Drake London went out and just absolutely balled. Against, also, I'd like to say against a good defense. And for a lot of those receptions, one of the better corners in football, Christian Gonzalez. What's most impressive and makes me thankful because our OC seems to have finally figured out. The only discouraging thing about Drake London with Michael Penix thus far is the difference when Darnell Mooney plays and when he doesn't. In the 3 games before Sunday that Darnell Mooney plays, London had not exceeded a 19% target share. He's averaging over a 35% target share in the games that Mooney has missed in the time that Penix has been the starter. But on Sunday, they realized, hey, let's just get it to our best receiver and see what happens. They targeted him on 37.8% of their passing plays. And all of a sudden, London has put up just some monster numbers over his last month. Despite only playing 7 games, he ranks 4th in targets, 8th in receiving yards. He's all the way up to 6th in fantasy points per game. His first 3 games, he had 16 receptions for 159 yards. 0 touchdowns. His best individual week was wide receiver 23. I had a lot of people because I hyped him up all summer as one of the best late first, early second round picks going, Keith, you screwed me. What are you doing here? Well, luckily over the last 4, 31 receptions, 414 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 top 5 wide receiver weeks, including being the number 1 wide receiver twice. And he averaged 9.96 points per game. Those first 3, he's now averaging just under 26 points per game over the last 4. My Falcons season is, just blowing up in my face as we speak. But luckily, Drake London, who I drafted in a bunch of leagues, will continue, I think, to excel as the season continues.
Absolutely. I had him and CMC in one league, and I was playing Liam this
Sorry,
week.
Liam.
Yep. No taking it easy on your son. If anything, you got to pour it on. So I was glad to see those 2 guys just ball out. And that leads you to your last gentleman that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, your boy CMC, another guy that I didn't understand why people were so hesitant to take him. He was going around the 8 to 11 range in the first round. Look, I get he's had injuries, but what running back doesn't? And when he's been healthy, like the upside has been number 1 guy in fantasy. And it's not like that was a 1 year, 2 year. This is 4 seasons. He's had 4 monster seasons. He's in the midst of having just another huge one. He had 164 yards from scrimmage on Sunday. He surpassed both 500 rushing yards and 500 receiving yards in just 9 players. He's only the 2nd player in the past decade to do that. Saquon Barkley was the other in 2018. And the 2nd Niner to achieve it. I know you probably remember Roger Craig. He did it all the way back in 1985. He's also up to 16 career games with at least a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. That is now first all time among running backs, surpassing the great Marshall Faulk.
I was looking on Hard Rock this morning. Obviously, he's got really, really big odds to win the MVP. I think it's like 150 to 1. Because the MVP is usually a quarterback award, but then I flipped it over to the Offensive Player of the Year, which is typically the best running back. I mean, that's not guaranteed, but that's usually how it goes. And he's still 7 to 1 to win that. So I think there's a good shot. Obviously, there's you got other running backs. Jonathan Taylor, I think, is leading that one, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to mention a quick note and get your thoughts on it. You know, you talk about your Falcons, everything blowing up your face, but you could be the Cincinnati Bengals fan who became the first team in 59 years to score 38 or more points in back-to-back contests and lose both. As last week, and the Bengals gave up a 15-point lead to the previously winless New York Jets and allowed a touchdown in the final minute of that 39-38 home loss. And then against the Bears, if you watched the last few minutes of that game, it was absolutely wild. The Bengals scored 2 touchdowns in a 49-second span to erase Chicago's 14-point lead and go up by 1 with only 50 seconds left, only to then give up a 58-yard touchdown with 17 seconds remaining to lose another crazy shootout in a home loss, this time 47-42. Wrap up, boys, and you win that game. That's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, they've given up over 1,000 yards
And
in just the last 2 weeks, which is absurd. Kyle Monangai, a
Yep.
7th round rookie, who, by the way, if you followed my DraftKings cheat sheet last week, he was a lock. Brock Bowers was a lock. Jackson Dart, we had a very good week. He just ran wild. He had 175 yards. It's kind of sad. And, you know, Joe Flacco, his arm's going to fall off at this rate with how much he's throwing the ball and his age. The only other thing I want to touch on real quickly before we get to the DFS plays is I think that despite the Bills beating the Chiefs again in the regular season, there are signs that this Bills team is different. They pressured Patrick Mahomes on 52% of his dropbacks. That's 15% higher than their other 9 matchups versus the Chiefs since 2020. He completed just 3 of 16 passes for 61 yards and a pick. Buffalo currently has 3 pass rushers in the top 20 in pressure rate. And what has been, you know, what has prevented Buffalo, in my opinion, from winning in the postseason is their inability to run the ball and pressure the quarterback. Well, James Cook became the first running back to rush for over 100 yards against Kansas City in the regular season and 24 regular season games. He's rushed for 100 yards or more in 6 of 8. No surprise, Buffalo is 6-0 when he rushes for 100 and plus yards, 0-2 when he doesn't. He's second among running backs in rushing yards and yards per carry, and his rate of 45.8% of his rush attempts going 5+ yards leads the NFL. If they can continue to do that, the Bills lead the NFL in rushing. They're 8th in sacks. They're also top 5 in pressure rate. I think they really have a chance to break the 30-year drought since they've been to a Super Bowl, and hopefully can win their first Super Bowl. I know I would be pulling for it. They have some of the best fans in the NFL.
Absolutely. I'd be all for that as well. Especially if they can do it to the Chiefs on the way up, and maybe it'll line up where they don't have to. But as of right now, they would have to do it probably from the wild card, as the Patriots and Drake May are leading that division, which is even crazier to say given how down the Patriots have been basically since Brady left. But Drake May, I think you talked a good bit about Drake May last week, is certainly the real deal. Keith, before we get to your, I just want to mention the all-time bad beat that a lot of people, including myself, had, with the Georgia Gunnar Stockton kneel down. I will say this before I talk about it again. It was the right thing to do. It guarantees you to win the game. You don't have to go back on the field, risking injuries, et cetera, et cetera. You know, he put the game away, and it was the right thing to do. But, man, talk about an all-time bad beat. They were my 4th leg of a spread parlay that I did. And I had him at 7.5. And I'm like, how much time? I thought there was a lot more time left than there was. And I was worried about it when there was like 4 minutes left. And then, of course, he scores that. I hit my 4th leg of the spread parlay. But also, a few people said you should never bet the spread in a Florida-Georgia game because it's always just unpredictable. But anyway, he goes down and, easy touchdown. They go up by, I think that point it would have been 9, pending the field extra point. And he kneels down at the 1-yard line. And, one of the worst bad beats I've ever been dealt, because simply, and I kind of thought too, I get, like I said, it guaranteed the game was going to be won and they didn't have to go back out there and play any more football because they could just kneel down from that point because Florida had no timeouts left. But in Georgia, Florida, don't you want to score as many points as you possibly can and kind of pound it when you can? I don't know. I thought that's why they would probably score too.
Kirby would say no, right? Like Kirby is all about winning.
To be more cutthroat.
But I just want to remind people, Steve Spurrier called a timeout in the 1990s to score one more touchdown with like 5 seconds left to beat us by 50. So
Yeah,
when
case
it
in
comes to the
point.
Gators,
Remember the
run it
Gators?
up. Like I was a little disappointed he didn't score. I understand it like you do, but come on, man. Like that's the
That's what
history
I'm
of this
saying.
rivalry,
Yeah,
right?
like if you got a
So
chance to score
score
another
the touchdown.
touchdown on your biggest rival, run it in the end zone and celebrate a little bit more. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I just wanted to mention that real quick before I got off with you. But yeah, let's take your first look at your your lineup for Week 10 DFX. I know you had a huge week last week, so make sure you're all paying attention.
Yeah, the quarterback, it's easy again. This will be, I think, the fourth week in a row. He's going to be the only quarterback pretty much I'm using as Jackson Dart, 5,700 at Chicago. He scored 27 points versus San Francisco. It's his sixth straight week with 18.6 points or more. That's every game he started this season. He scored at least one rushing touchdown and thrown at least one passing touchdown in 5 of 6 games. He's also rushed for 50 plus yards in 4 of 6. He's averaging 8.35 points per game just as a rusher. And I think the reason he continues to not go up in price is because people are not using him, because if you look at DraftKings points per game, it says he's averaging 17.3 points per game.
But that's
That
the
is
whole
including
season.
2 games where he played a handful of snaps and scored 0 points in those 2 games. He is actually averaging 23 points per game. Only Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson average more points per game in the main slate this week. Dart is the 10th most expensive player on the slate. That is the definition of value. What do we love in cash games? A high floor, averaging 8.35 points per game with his legs. Like, you get that. Again, he's hit 3x of even his salary this week. And every start he's made so far this year, I'm going to keep rolling with him until something changes.
Yeah, and going up against Chicago, their run defense, you probably have what they are against the run. I would imagine it's probably not very good.
They're very bad versus both running backs and quarterbacks, ranking
yeah.
in the bottom third.
Oof, yeah, so all the more reason to play Jackson Dart as your quarterback in your Week 10 slate. Go ahead, Keith, sorry.
No, you're good. The running backs, again, are pretty easy this week. James Cook's won 7,500 at Miami. You just heard me say the difference in
Poor
Buffalo
Miami.
wins, Buffalo losses. I think we can all assume they're going to beat Miami, who just traded Jalen Waddle. So now they're without their elite
did Waddle
wide
go?
receiver. I'm sorry, buddy.
Where did he go? Because I knew they were going to trade him. I just hadn't seen the news yet.
Denver for a first and fourth rounder is what I saw.
They got a first rounder out of that? That's crazy.
And a fourth rounder. I think that's a great trade for Miami. Not great for them in the interim. Again, Cook, 100 plus yards and all 6 Bills wins. He scored 7 touchdowns in those games, averaging 25.5 points per game in those 6, scoring 21 plus points in 5 of 6. And this Miami team, 145 rushing yards per game at 5 yards per carry, with 10 rushing touchdowns this season. So that's a slam dunk. The other one, his price is going to start skyrocketing, and that's Rico Dowdle, 6,300 versus New Orleans. For the third time in the last 5 games, he's topped 100 yards. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns for the first time in his career. That gives him 4 rushing touchdowns this season, matching his total in 4 seasons with the Cowboys. This week, Dowdle, most importantly, they finally did what they said they were going to do, gave the ball to the better running back. He had 83% of the rush attempts, saw 15% of the targets in the passing game. Another big thing, 2 of both carries inside the 5 for Carolina running backs. He's now averaging in games with 20 plus touches this year. There's been 3 of them, 173 rushing yards and 31.5 fantasy points per game. And New Orleans is more on the side of the Cowboys Dolphins and not, what he faced this week in Green Bay, which is actually a pretty good run defense. So I love Dowdle. The receivers this week, JSN is the guy that I'm going to spend up with, 8,600. He's the safest wide receiver in fantasy, someone you need to jam into your lineups. His last 4 games, 45 targets, 32 receptions, 546 yards, 3 touchdowns, almost 30 points per game. And Sam Darnold is just like, I'm sorry, Minnesota made a huge mistake. He looks so good. And you can't tell me in year 2 with Kevin O'Connell, who is, so good with quarterbacks,
It wouldn't have
with
been
Justin
even
Jefferson,
better.
Jordan Addison, this Minnesota team, like, I think they would be contending potentially for a title. And that's no, disrespect to JJ McCarthy. It's just that this guy is elite. Don't forget he was the number 2 draft pick, like 7 years ago,
Yeah.
has kind of figured it out. So I love that. I was gonna mention Parker Washington, but now with the trade for Jacoby Myers, I'm probably gonna pivot from that. So be sure to check out my work on Fantasy Six Pack. But I will go
Where
ahead and
did
say that I do
Jacoby
like
Myers go?
Zacchaeus for the Chicago Bears, 3,600 versus the Giants. Volume is king, particularly with guys priced in this range. He's only 3,600. He's seen 6+ targets, 4 of his last 5, had consecutive double-digit games scoring-wise on DraftKings, and the Giants have allowed at least 1 touchdown to a wide receiver in 3 straight games. And then the tight end, it's pretty easy for me this week. Cleveland's back off of a bye. Harold Fanning Jr., 4,200 at the Jets. Since the Browns traded Joe Flacco and made Dylan Gabriel their starter, Fanning has been tight end 6 over those 4 games. In that stretch, 27 targets, 21 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 52.4 points. That's 13.1 per. And what I like about Fannin is they're still targeting Njoku. Njoku's still having good games, but because Fannin is such an elite weapon, they're lining him up at receiver. They're lining him up in the backfield, and that means he's still on the field for like 80 to 85% of the pass plays and running routes on the same number, like 80, 85% of the passing attempts. So I think that he's a very safe play against, the Bengals defense is awful. So is the Jets as well. So like we are definitely seeing there's certain defenses you absolutely want players that are going against. The Bengals are at the top of that list, but the Jets are right there as well.
So are the Cowboys too.
Yeah,
had to get that in
absolutely.
there.
God, that was a shocking loss last night. Like I
Jacoby
cannot
Brissett,
believe
maybe
they
the new
lost to
guy in
Arizona and Jacoby Brissett. And I think there's a QB controversy
I think
right
there
now in
is, too.
Arizona.
But you've got Kyler Murray's under a $230 million contract, if I'm not mistaken. This is only year 2, but yeah, they look a lot better with Jacoby Brissett, that's for sure. Keith, where did Jacoby Myers end up getting traded to? I didn't see that this morning.
So he went to Jacksonville.
Oh, that's right. I
They
think
did
you
not
said
get.
that,
They
yeah.
gave up, I think, a 4th and 6th rounder is what I saw. I just want to say, and again, I was wrong about Trevor Lawrence. I was somebody who said that he was going to be a can't miss prospect, and what a great pick and all this. They keep giving capital up for wide receivers. They did it for Hunter. They're doing it for Myers. Trevor Lawrence ranks 27th in yards per attempt, 29th in EPA, 32nd in touchdown rate, 29th in touchdown to interception rate, 32nd in completion percentage over expected, and 28th in accuracy among quarterbacks. Maybe the receivers are not the issue.
And maybe, maybe it was just, you were the opposite end on Trevor Lawrence, and maybe it's, maybe that's the difference. But yeah, Keith, real quick, as you always do, let everybody know where they can find your stuff throughout the week.
Yeah, I'd really appreciate it if you check out all my work at fantasysixpack.net. I have a show where we cover the 12 must-know fantasy stats. That usually comes out tonight with me and Casey Kasem. Be sure to check that out on the YouTube channel. Me and Joe Matz get together on Friday nights and do our DFS Cash show. We had a great week. Joe tried to convince me to jam T. Higgins into my lineups last week. I didn't listen. Could have been an epic week if I would have. And then again, all of my stuff is usually on Twitter at Keith Fleming. That's KEITHFLEMMING. And I'm also on Blue Sky at the same at Keith Fleming, but with DFS on the end of that.
There you go. There you go. One last question, Keith. College football playoffs rankings come out tonight. Where does Georgia start in the first ranking?
Ooh, I would think that they'd have to be top 5. But I mean, at this point, I just want them to keep winning. We have, I believe, Mississippi State this week, and then a big game at home under the lights versus Texas in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you guys will get Texas. That's for sure. That's for sure. Gunner's playing well right now, and you guys are starting to run the football a little bit better. So I have Georgia.
Got our stud linebacker back too, which he helps the entire defense. He's in the same vein. It's like Roquan Smith and some of the other guys that they've had in the past. Huge difference when he's on the field or not.
Well, appreciate you coming on as you do every Tuesday at 11:30 our time, 12:30 your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day, Keith, and I know we'll talk soon.
You too, man. Technology, we just can't beat it, can we, Ryan?
We can't not have it, but at the same time, it lets us down more often than not. But you have to have it, so it's kind of one of those crazy things. Appreciate you, Keith. Take care.
Yep. Guys, have a great day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye. All right, I'm going to finish today's show and apologize for the technical difficulties that we have had. I'm going to finish this show. Obviously, like I just mentioned, this will be the first college football playoff rankings coming out tonight, 7 p.m. our time on ESPN, as long as you don't have YouTube TV. I recommend Hulu Live if you're trying to make a switch. Hulu Live's about the same price, but it includes all the ABC, Disney channels, whatever we're calling them. I've got Ohio State number 1. I think that's probably fair across the country. They are 8-0. Their strength of schedule is 33rd in the nation. And then I have Texas A&M, who's also 8-0. Their strength of schedule is 15. That's why I got them in the number 2 spot over Indiana in the number 3 spot. Indiana also 8-0. Their strength of schedule, though, 39. Then I've got the Georgia Bulldogs coming in the 4 spot. They are 7-1. It was close with Alabama, but Alabama has the head-to-head win over Georgia. That's why Georgia was number 4 for me. Their strength of schedule is top 10 in the country, coming in at number 9. And I've got the Alabama Crimson Tide at number 5. They are also 7-1, but again, their one loss, I believe, was to Georgia. Or no, to Florida State. I'm sorry. So that's why they fell to that 5th spot, because their strength of schedule is number 4 in the nation. Number 1 strength of schedule in the nation is the Wisconsin Badgers, and they're not doing so great this season. That's probably why. Number 6, I've got Ole Miss, 8-1. Their strength of schedule is 24. And then number 7, I've got the Oregon Ducks. They're also 7-1. Their strength of schedule is number 36 in the nation. I believe all the teams that I put in there are 39 or better when it comes to strength of schedule. Number 8, I misspoke there. BYU strength of schedule is 46th. So all strength of schedules are top 50 for my 12 teams in the first going of the college football playoffs. BYU is 8-0. And then number 9 is 8-1 Texas Tech. Their strength of schedule is 58, so top 60. I keep jinxing myself here. So number 9, Texas Tech, they are 8-1. Number 10, I've got Oklahoma, who's 7-2, but their strength of schedule is 11th in the nation. And I've got Notre Dame at number 11, strength of schedule 23. They are 6-2. Their 2 losses at the time were both against top 10 teams. That's why I got Notre Dame at number 11. And then last but not least, I've got either UVA or Georgia Tech. Virginia's strength of schedule a little high up there. Obviously, they play in the ACC, 88. And then Georgia Tech's strength of schedule is 42. Likely those 2 teams may be playing in the ACC championship. The winner of that game, I think, gets that 12th spot. Obviously, this is just for the first week, so I'll keep myself posted on how it goes tonight, and then we'll talk about it on Thursday as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Sorry about some of the technical difficulties. I knew when it was by myself it was going to be a little bit more complicated than probably it usually is, but I won't be by myself on Thursday. Thursday I'll have both Jay Henley and Jay Chapman in studio with us. We'll talk a little bit about all sorts of fun stuff. Do want to give a shout out to both the UA Lady Basketball Eagles and the UA Boys Soccer Team, as they both have games this afternoon. The boys soccer team trying to go 3-0, the girls basketball team trying to go 2-0. But what's cool about the girls basketball game today is the first ever home basketball game for the girls basketball team, as the gym opened a little bit after the season last year. So excited to see our Lady Eagles play at home. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll, of course, keep you posted throughout the rest of the week with everything going on, and I will have an athlete of the week come this afternoon. Again, we appreciate y'all tuning in. This podcast will be posted tomorrow on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. It'll be all over the internet. One more time, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you to my sponsors, Panhandle Credit Union, Golf Plus, American Charlie's, as well as Evoke Wellness and Therapy. Appreciate all the sponsors here on the Inside Drive. Y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back on Thursday.